everybody. Welcome back to Ozzy's Oddities. You caught me here. I was just working on my lathe. I was turning the governor sleeve down for the old M engine I'm working on. But I was just getting it set up. But what we're going to do today, I'm going to show you something here. What I'm going to do today is today we're going to be working on these old corn shellers. And we've got one here, this Black Hawk sheller, and it's kind of rusty and needs to be worked on in a way so we can paint it up, prime it up, and get it to somebody who can use it. Somebody that would like to feed their chickens or just grind corn to show people how it's done. Not grind, but shell corn. So what we're going to do is take this thing apart. Let's take it all apart. Then we'll take the wire wheel to it and clean it up the best we can. And then we'll see if we can get some paint on it today, some primer anyway. Well, you know, usually you find these in iron piles on auctions or junkyards or wherever. But you know, you see them for sale on Etsy and eBay and all over the place. But some of them work, some of them don't. But I like to fix them up, make sure they're working really good, and then sell them to somebody that can use it. And that's the name of the game. Let's get it working and working the way it should. So I got my tools here. I don't need much to take one of these apart. Let's get the box out of here so we can see this better. What we've got here is a real simple mechanism. We got a hand crank, and this whole mechanism clamps to a box, a pail, whatever you can clamp it to. You got a tensioner. Inside, there's a wheel with a lot of teeth on it. And there's tension on here, holds the ear of corn against those teeth. And as you turn the crank, it turns it around, shells the corn, and kicks the cob out. And it's really great when they're working. They're a good demonstration piece. You can show this to, kids just love to turn cranks. Like I said before in some of my previous videos, if you go to the Boy Scouts, the 4-H clubs, and the county fairs, and the threshing bees, you'll see these things all over. But let's make them right. The first thing I gotta do is get everything apart. And maybe I'll put my parts in here. This one isn't rusted too bad. I'm really glad because, this might be stuck a little bit. And it's very important not to pry or bang too hard on these things because they're all cast iron. And you know what happens when you pound on cast iron. So, and this is not a hammer. Hey, just a little persuasion. I had sprayed a couple days ago. I sprayed some penetrating solution called Blaster. I sprayed that on. I use that a lot when I want to get the bolts loose. Let's see. Let's take the compression spring. That's nice and loose. That loosened right up. This one isn't too bad, like I say. It's really... Most of them you find have been laying in the ground so long or outside that they're pretty much a mess. All right. Now, the compression piece, look at that casting. Intricate. Very nice. No cracks, no breaks, no chips. It's just as nice as can be. It says Black Hawk right on there. And we also look, when we take these apart, if they aren't rusted too bad, sometimes you'll find a little color paint. And this one here I can see underneath, it's black. So we'll restore it in black. All right, here's that wheel I was telling you about all these pointed, I don't know, teeth, whatever you want to call them, these points, and that's what does the shelling of the corn. So let's take this apart. Let's see, screwdriver. I like to put them, if I put all this stuff back together again, I kind of remember how it goes, but put every bolt back in that was with the wing nut. I like these shellers. I like these hand shellers. I also like the tall ones with the big crank. And, you know, they made big ones. They made a 2-hole corn sheller. I don't even have a 2-hole corn sheller, but I've got so I have a small collection of corn shellers. One more. Wow, they all came apart easy. That's really good. It's quality stuff. It's none of that Japanese junk. This is all made in the United States. It says right on here. This is quality stuff. All of the machines that were made years ago were quality. Look at the casting. That's quite a casting. Got an oil hole. That's a good one. And you can tell it didn't lay out too long because look at the handle. The wood handle is still, it's weathered, but it's not rotted away like most of them are. Then, we've got this piece, another casting on the outside. That one's in good shape too. No cracks, no chips. Patented. It's got a patent number on here. Black Hawk sheller. 909. I don't know what that means. Black Hawk sheller. That's a good one. This plate is really good. USA. Clarksville, Tennessee, USA. The next thing we have to do, we have to clean up some of this rust before we prime it. See? So rather than put it in solution, I think I'm going to wire wheel this one. So why don't we try that? We'll just take this from the workbench. We'll take it all over to the wire wheel. Now, I had my bench all cleaned off, but then I started working on this engine. So I got a whole bench full of engine parts. If you don't wear eye protection, you'll end up like me. Blind one eye, can't see out of the other. Got a wire wheel here. It's a coarse wire wheel. The motor's from a cream separator with a motor arbor on it. That's all I use because I don't have to do any high speed. Now we'll just take that rust right off. And this coarse wheel takes it pretty much down to the metal. We're not polishing rust on this one. One thing about cast iron, when it rusts, it just gets kind of a coating of rust. It doesn't really dig in and flake off like it does on the steel. So I'm real happy with it. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. You know, when I was a kid, I bet I wasn't 5 years old, 5, maybe 6. My sister and I, it was our job to shell corn for the chickens on the farm, and we used one of these shellers just like this. And then later on they got a bigger sheller that you turned a big flywheel around. And I can remember turning that, and when it got going good, the flywheel would lift me right off the ground, the crank. I'll never forget that when I was a kid. Well, let's see what it says here. Made and warranted by A.H. Patch, Clarksville, Tennessee, USA. How about that? You know, ever since I can remember, I've been polishing and painting, restoring old machinery. When I was a little kid, I got an old wrench I picked up, and the wrench was in an old junk piece of machinery. It was a Haymore, a Milwaukee Haymore, horse-drawn Haymore, and there was an old wrench in it, and I was really small. All I had was my dad's old wire brush that he used for painting, and I cleaned that wrench up, and I painted it. And then about a year later I lost it. But anyway, ever since that I've been painting and grinding, and in the parts washer, I parts wash if it's greasy. I have been doing that as long as I can remember. In this shop I've only been in since 1970, and I'll bet you that, I'll bet you 50 tractors went through here, and cars and everything. Engines. I know I counted up the other day, and there was 40 engines went through this shop. Stationary engines that I fixed up for people and myself, and I've always enjoyed restoring things. Plus, I've always enjoyed looking at the old machinery, the people that built that machinery. Whether it's a fanning mill or a thrashing machine or the old tractors, they pinstriped them. They were so proud of the work. They made it so nice. They took pride in the work. Today, that car of mine, holy crap, it's made out of plastic. It's a Tupperware car. There's no pride in that. I can take my hand and push right through it. But if I go in my shed where the 55 Buick sits, I can jump up and down on the roof and I won't put a dent in it. You can't buy quality today, people. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. So when I see something that I think is worth fixing up, I fix it up. Even if I don't want it, I fix it up. Somebody's gonna need it someday. We gotta get back to the real world. I want to buy a car. And I know it sounds a little weird. You guys think probably I live in the hills, but you know what? When I buy a new car or a used car, I want one with a window that cranks down. I don't want one with a motor in it. The motor's gonna, break down, and if I can't fix it, I have to take it in. And the new cars, my gosh, they must have 50 switches in there that monitor this and monitor that and sensors and why? How can you fix all that stuff? My old 55 Buick, we had crank up windows. We cranked it up. There was no sensors in the seat or the steering wheel or any of that goofy stuff they got on today. Mine ran good. And no computer. No computer. We're living in a throwaway world. Did you know that? And today, this might have got thrown away because nobody could use it anymore, didn't need it. Their farming got so big, which is a mistake today. The farmers getting so big, they don't have to shell corn by hand, but it probably got pushed in a shed and it laid there forever. But today, everything we buy is throwaway. My granddaughter and I put in a dishwasher the other day, and you know what? That dishwasher, all the connectors were made of plastic. Man, years ago they used to be either copper, brass, or steel or something. Anyway, today it's all plastic. I couldn't believe it. Nobody fixes TVs today. and nobody fixes shoes today. If it wasn't for my leather shop, I can put a sole on a shoe, but find somebody today that knows how to fix a shoe. It's even cast in the handle, Black Hawk Sheller AH patch. Now that's really something. They took pride in their work. That's beautiful. We got a little Giant we're working on, and we'll have this Black Hawk. This will go up for sale because I don't need it. And somebody can use it. And boy, I hope they take it and take it and give demonstrations or just feed their chickens with it. Just make me proud. But I just love to see this old machinery go back to work. Way back when I was a kid, back in it was in the 60s. I think it was 1963, if I remember. I went to a thrashing show. My dad took me to a thrashing show. I was just in grade school then. And he showed me what all these machines were and what they were used for, machines I never saw before. And that stuck in my mind. And when I went home, I looked at some of the old machinery we had in the sheds packed away. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be nice if that was fixed up and running again? And the more I thought about that, the more I knew that someday I was going to fix up all this junk. Well, everybody, I'd like to fill you in a little bit about what's happening with this 1.5 horse International engine that I picked up last year. About 2 years ago, I had some engines at a engine show, and a guy came up to me and he says, would you like to buy an International engine? He says it's mostly a part and there's pieces in the box, and I'm not sure they're all there, but it's not all a part, but there's a whole box full of parts. And I thought, oh no, that's all I need is a box of parts. So I says, no, I got enough to work on. I don't think I better bite on this. And well, he gave me his name and address, and he says, if you're interested, come and take a look. Well, I put it in my billfold and forgot all about it. Then a year later, this last summer, this guy comes in the yard with a trailer with this engine on it. And I had told him some people that might be interested in it, but none of them would bite on it. So he says, you know, it's going to the junkyard if you don't buy it from me. So I figured every engine's worth more than scrap price. So I said, okay, we worked out a deal, whatever, and I took it. And it was kind of interesting. I just thought it was another 1.5 horse McCormick, but you know what? This one turned out to be a 1921 model. Now they made them from 1917 to 1937. Now this one is an early one. So I thought, wow, maybe I got something here really interesting. It doesn't have a spark plug. It's got an igniter. It's got a magneto, a Type L rotary mag, and he was right. It was a box of parts. But the reason they couldn't fix it was because they had broke off the pin on the flywheel. I got it right here. I'll let you take a look at it. I thought I'd never get that out. And they thought so too. That's why they gave up on this engine. But what's really interesting is I ran across this guy on the internet, Shop Dog Sam. This holds the flywheel on the shaft. It's a 4-inch long tapered gib key. And it was broke off right at the edge of the flywheel, but there was a little bit left down in the keyway. So I made this piece of metal and I welded it on just any way I could. It's a pretty sloppy weld, but you know what? It held, and I made a puller and I put a pipe on here and I tightened this down, and guess what? It pulled it right out. So I got it out, and I was so happy for that. So that's why they got rid of it. That was the big problem I saw. And then I got into the governor, and the governor's shoe was worn and cut grooves into the, that's what I'm turning on the lathe right now. The shoe is up there, but I should show you that too. That's something you ought to see. I've never seen one that bad. Look at the grooves cut in this governor shoe. Now that should be a nice round, but it's just cut way in. Somebody tightened down the tension on it so tight that they just wore it out. I'm going to try welding that up. If I can't, I'll just have to find one someplace. But anyway, I've been working on this thing. The crankshaft has just a little play in it. So I'm going to take the bearings out, clean them all up, redo them. Take the mag out, make that sure that works. It's got a push rod for the igniter, and I have those parts, believe it or not. I have the cylinder. Its cylinder is real good inside. No grooves, doesn't show wear. And the head is okay. The valves are stuck. Of course, that'll come loose with no blaster. And I think it's going to be a good engine. I really do. I don't know about the fuel pump. So I'll have to go through the fuel pump and see what that's like inside. And it was a gob of grease, and I'm debating whether I should leave the original paint on or I should paint it. I just don't know. The top and the water hopper is pretty much rusted and paint gone. There's a little paint on the base, not too much, a lot of grease down there. That's what saved the paint, I guess. But this is original skids on this thing. And on the other side it says International. And even on the water hopper on the other side, the writing is still there. And there's a decal on this side. I don't know if it's a decal or painted or what it is, but it's all here. I'm starting to clean it up. I got all the parts on the bench over there. And I don't know if I should paint it or not, but if anybody's got any ideas, let me know. And here's the governor, part of the governor that holds the springs and the weights. And the flywheel, another flywheel spacer, the pulley. And here's all the parts. Here's the vent in the back, and there's a little paint on there yet, just a little, not much. And here's the governor weights. Oh, I'm missing one of these springs. If anybody has one of these springs laying around, let me know. Again, this is a 1921 engine, and I got the carburetor. One needle valve is crooked as a snake, but I think with a little heat I can straighten that. And the carburetor, the valve is stuck. I got that soaking in blaster. We'll see what happens there. But overall, it's not too bad. I might need to buy a few parts, the springs and stuff, but overall, I think it's going to be all right. Well, here's my primer. I'm just using Rust-Oleum Rusty Metal Primer. We'll see what that looks like. I haven't had this can open for a while. Looks pretty good. I could spray prime it, but I decided that every time I spray paint it, most of my spray paint goes in the air and out towards the neighbor's yard. So I'll just put this on with a brush and get in all the cracks and crannies and see what I can do. I feel really bad that all of this stuff, all the old corn shellers and all the old machinery is getting to be a dying issue. Several and one of them quit the thrashing shows that I used to attend and to get some knowledge and learn about all this stuff. They're going by the wayside because young people just don't seem to be interested in this stuff anymore. And it's really a shame. I know from personal observation that the high schools, all our high schools are closing their industrial art shop. Most of them have already. I used to like going to the car shows and looking at the old Model Ts and the old antique cars, and I thought, that's wonderful. Well, the last couple of years I went, no, there wasn't any Model Ts. It was all muscle cars. And I'm not saying that's wrong. The kids today are growing up, and they didn't grow up in the society that us old people, I hate to say that, but we grew up in. This is my most modern thing. Here it is, my #1 paint hanger. One thing about a brush, you don't waste a whole lot of paint. It's all going on the park. And then, now all we got to do is, we got it all good, take a good look. There's a spot there I might have missed a little bit. We look it over good and we hang it up to dry. We'll just hang it any place in the shop we can. Right here on this bandsaw is a real good place to hang my parts. Good, okay. Now what was I talking about anyway? I feel bad today when a kid can't change a light bulb or wire a cord on a lamp. I feel bad. I feel we've missed the boat. And if people see that, hey, that guy can fix up a corn shower, I bet I could do something like that. Whether it's restoring a bicycle for your kid, a trike for your grandkid or something, do it. Have some fun. But this, some people might say this is a waste of time, and to some people, maybe it is, okay? And I'm not saying this is what everybody should do, but I think this is something everybody should try to do at one time in their life. And my drying rack with my hanger. Yeah. You know, I'm always talking about kids going to college and getting a degree so they can push buttons or do business or whatever they want to do, and then they find out that there's so many that went to get this degree that they're unemployed for years and they got a big debt. Well, and I'm not knocking college, jeepers. I went to college myself. And I got to tell you that story. When I was in high school, my high school, I don't know what they call those guys anymore, I can't remember it. They tell you what you should do.
Guidance counselor?
My guidance counselor. He said, you should be a farmer. Your grades aren't good enough to go to college. You'll never make it in college. I didn't listen to him in school, and I thought, and I don't know, I didn't really think much of being a teacher. The teachers I had in high school, and they were the bottom, I'll tell you. Yeah. But anyway, so they told me I'd never make it in college. So, well, all I got to do is tell me something like that, and I go to college. I went to college, got a degree, Bachelor of Science, became an industrial arts teacher. Yeah, believe me, that was fun. All this industrial arts stuff I learned, and I liked biology, so I took a biology major, and then I realized that there's so many things in industrial arts that I really love that I forgot about all the frog bones and everything over there, and I dropped that and became a industrial arts major in debt. And I had some really good teachers. The professors I had in college were great, and they realized that there was potential for me, I guess. I don't know. They offered me to teach in college down there, an internship. But you want to know what? That guy, guidance counselor in high school, told me that I should be a farmer. Well, you want to know what? I love farming. That's what I grew up in, and I loved it. So he wasn't too far off. I wanted to be a farmer too. So I was. I farmed while I was in college, and I farmed after I got out of college. I farmed while I was teaching. And boy, I found out that life has so much to offer. I mean, it's just not restorations. It's plumbing, it's electronics, it's carpentry. There's everything that you can go and learn. And I guess variety is the spice of life, and I like lots of seasoning, so I tried everything. All of this stuff I learned in college, and I know I did teach school too, but I found out that back when I was teaching school in the 70s, I was farming also. And I was making more money farming than I was teaching school. And you know what? Those cattle didn't talk back as much as those kids did. So I liked it. I loved it, teaching these kids. But I also had to think of buying a farm and paying for that. So I thought, you better go where you can see a future. And Teachers were underpaid. But anyway, and they closed the shop I used to teach in, which made me feel really bad. That's another thing I liked about teaching industrial arts. I could use all the tools. I gotta get another one of my professional hangers here. And somebody's gonna say I do everything the hard way. But you wanna know what? It's a good way. Let's take a look at that. But the corn picker, we used to pick cribs and cribs, wire cribs full of ear corn. And then before that, we had wood cribs, slat cribs. Sometimes we put up snow fences to put the corn in. Then we'd grab that and shell it off for the chickens. My mother raised chickens, sold the eggs for 25 cents a dozen. Would you believe that? Okay, we've got all the parts for the Black Hawk corn sheller primed. Now I still have to sand that and take care of the handle, but the parts will get a maybe another coat of primer. I'm not sure. I'll see how it looks. Or we'll put a black, semi-gloss black coat of paint on there. That's the color original was. I found it on the machine. And then she'll be done. And then it can go out for somebody that wants to demonstrate, or somebody wants to shell their corn for their chickens, what have you. But that's the Black Hawk sheller. We've got another one to go. Little Giant. We'll do that one yet. But this is what I like to do, and I hope you enjoy watching me do what I like to do. So maybe you'll want to do it too. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you again right here on Ozzy's Oddities.